Good evening, everyone, and welcome. This is Gord Isman, and we're doing another live chat this evening. And I'm very excited because tonight we have a very special topic. We're going to be talking about video marketing strategies for small business. And my guest this evening is Brad Friedman of the Friedman Group. And he's an author, podcaster, speaker, and digital marketing expert. And he also has an awesome podcast, as I mentioned. It's called The Digital Slice, and I had the good fortune of being a guest on there. And if you get a chance, everyone check that out. His podcast is great with a lot of good topics that he covers. In the world today, we have digital marketing strategies in our business, and we need to include video because regardless of where your target audience is, people prefer to consume video over other media. So without further ado, I want to introduce you all to Brad Friedman. Welcome, Brad.
Hi, Gord. Thanks so much for having me on your show today.
It's my pleasure. And just before we get started, I just want to see how we're doing in the feed. It looks like we have some people here. That's great. Welcome, Dale from Self-Published, Launchpad Astronomy, and Naomi. That's awesome. So it looks like things are good, or we would have heard something. I always have to be comfortable that the tech's okay, Brad. It's just kind of like my thing. So
I hear you. I'm the same way.
So Brad, what I'd love to do to start out is to help people get a little context. And by doing that, if we understood sort of what you do to serve your clients and what your business is about, then we can see how to correlate all of that to video marketing strategy. So I'll let you start up and give us an introduction there.
Sure. So, Gord, my background is in the law. I practiced law for about 16 years. And then I saw this void in the internet, basically, where lawyers and doctors and financial services providers, CPAs, stockbrokers, insurance brokers, all of these people weren't taking advantage of the internet because of various regulations that told them what they could do online and when they could do it. And so I thought I should start a business to work with those people and help them with their digital marketing. So I created the Friedman Group, and we work mainly with professional services providers, small business owners, and we help them with all of their digital marketing needs, from building a website to doing an assessment of their online presence, creating marketing strategies, helping them with their inbound email and social media marketing. And that's, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we do.
Well, that's pretty cool. So is there a process that you carry your clients through, just so that can help give us context, or was that pretty well covering it in a broad brush sense?
There's a process. I really like to understand my client's business before really diving in and helping them. I want to know what they do, who they do it for. I want to help them develop their own buyer personas. I want to know who their target audience is. I want to understand what marketing they've already been doing, what's been successful, what hasn't been successful, what their marketing goals are. There's a whole bunch of things that I like to discover before doing anything, really. So, we have a discovery meeting before I dive in and do my own online assessment of them. I want to know who they think their competitors are, so that when I do research and find other competitors, we can see, who's right, or are my people really competitors or not. A lot of times people say to me, oh, nobody does what I do. I don't have any competitors. And millions of people do what you do. You
Yeah.
just think you do it differently, so that puts you in a different box. Uh, so yeah, so that's really where it starts, is me really getting a good understanding of the business.
Okay. So I often hear the term inbound marketing, and as we know, you wrote a book on inbound marketing. Can you give us a little perspective to understand the landscape that there's inbound marketing and outbound marketing? And then after you lay that groundwork, sort of just say how video marketing fits into that content, the content side of marketing.
Okay, fair warning before I start in on this. I am very passionate about inbound marketing. So when I babble on for too long, you just break in and move me on to a different topic, because I think that in today's world, we really have to get a grasp of inbound marketing. Inbound marketing is very customer centric. It's grasping onto the customer experience is really the new marketing. Um, my friend Dan Tyre, who was a member of the HubSpot startup team, and HubSpot really, as far as I can tell, invented inbound marketing. He wrote the
Mm-hmm.
foreword for my book,
Mm-hmm.
which is The Small Business Owner's Guide to Inbound Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan defined inbound marketing in the foreword to my book like this. He said, inbound is defined as a holistic, data driven approach of turning total strangers
Mm-hmm.
into top notch customers by providing them content on your website for free in exchange for their permission to market to them. So inbound marketing is often called permission
Mm-hmm.
marketing, and it's designed to create awareness of your product or your services for people who are actually searching for your product or your service. And your messages are specifically targeted to your best target market and buyer persona. Different content is presented at different stages of the process to help inform,
Mm-hmm.
to help figure out whether they're a good fit with you, to educate, to help prospects make good decisions. And a lot of times, this is one of the places where video comes into play, because everybody wants to be consuming video today. So it definitely has to be part of your content mix. And inbound is really, there's a lot more push than there is pull. In other words, we're really focused on helping people rather than negotiating with them and trying to sell to them. The theory really is to start a relationship with your buyer personas in the very early stages, sometimes years before they're ready to make a
Oh, wow.
purchase, and nurture them along during the process.
So I'm curious, how does the inbound marketing approach define something like me receiving internet marketer, being bombarded with internet marketer stuff, selling me stuff on something like JVZoo, like all these tools and different things, and you just get regular emails. And to me, there's not really much content other than their argument to convince me to go press to see the sales page. So that's not is that considered inbound marketing, or a rough version, or how do you classify that
Yeah.
kind of marketing?
So I would say that kind of marketing is more outbound marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I think of outbound marketing, I think of traditional marketing methods like print ads, billboards, radio, television, direct mail.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of direct mail, you can also think today about email. So the
Right.
kinds of emails that you just described would be very much like direct mail
Mm.
and in an outbound marketing campaign.
Yeah. So it's pretty cold, in other words, the relationship and the dynamic there. Except what I find is the way they masterfully work is, if I bought one thing from them ever, I'm like on their list to be, I'm calling it spammed forever with anybody's products. And that just frustrates me. So I often end up on, unrolling from their subscription because, I do want to be on their list, but more for their own new product information, not for everything
Right.
about everyone else's that they want to market to me.
Right.
So thanks for making that distinction. So is there more of a shift from outbound marketing used to be, I guess dominating before comparatively, right? So would you say that there's much more of a focus on inbound marketing activity than outbound, or does that depend on the size of business, and how does that correlate to small businesses which you serve, right?
So I think there's been a lot of discussion over the last year or two about this sort of customer experience is what's, ruling. There's been books written on customer experience and how important it is. There's all kinds of information out there. I think outbound marketing still has its place, but just like you described with the emails that you're getting, it's interruption based marketing, and it causes frustration, and it causes people to unsubscribe from those emails because they haven't asked for them. You didn't give them permission to send you that email. So every time you get one, it's interrupting your inbox, it's interrupting you. So I think there is a shift in many businesses of all sizes of trying to be more customer centric, of trying to attract customers through relevant and helpful content, of trying to add value at every stage in the customer's buying journey. I
Right.
think it's this is partially happening because people are realizing how much the internet has become a part of our lives, and how everybody is going to do their research to buy a product online. Let me give you a few statistics that sort of help answer this
Sure.
question. So 97% of consumers research products and services in their local area online. 93% of all business-to-business purchases start with an internet search.
Mm-hmm.
84% of buyers engage in online information consumption and education. 74% of sales go to the first company that was helpful. And then there's all these statistics that we see all the time about how people are much more likely to take the advice or the recommendation of a peer or a colleague. They're more likely to take that advice than they are to react favorably to an ad, like a billboard or
So
like something in their Facebook feed.
so you're getting to the whole aspect of the social nature and sharing and how important that is, and so when someone consumes a video as an example and they share it, that's something that we're seeking for as an outcome in our strategy, to have that level of engagement that shows up more visibly in the I guess that can be measured through statistics, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, social, and I know we're going to talk about this as we go on, but social is incredibly important. But even before we get to that, acknowledging the fact that our business is going to be part of a Google search
Mm.
when a customer is looking for our product or service, and being able to be there and be available through various landing pages or the like to help educate the prospect, the buyer, about what we do, how we do it, who we do it for, what the benefits are. It is really what's going to help us measure our success online today, because that's what people are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Can you differentiate, the term I often hear, inbound marketing, also referred to content focused marketing, right? So
Right.
we can do things like blogs, we can do emails, but we can also have video, and there's all kinds of other ways in which that experience, that content can be consumed. What is it about video that makes it stand out? And should video ever be exclusively your strategy, or are you really looking to achieve a mix in a campaign?
So that's a great question. So video is so important today because everybody wants to consume video. Personally, I think there's some laziness involved in that, and people would rather watch a video than they would read a blog post or read an ebook or sit through an hour-long webinar or anything like that. But facts are facts, and the fact is that in the world we live in today, people want to watch video. Now, that doesn't mean everybody enjoys watching video as their sole method to gather information on products and services that they need. So I think it's very important that you have video in your mix. And you mentioned some of the other things, blog posts, ebooks, white papers, checklists. There's all kinds of content that we can create and provide for free to our potential buyers in order to build a relationship with them. I mean, remember, no matter what kind of business you're in order to do business with somebody, you have to have a relationship with them. You have to develop trust and credibility. So video, I think, is just an extraordinary way to help build trust and credibility. People see you. They can look into your eyes. They can hear your voice. They can see your mannerisms. Do you look shifty? Do you look credible? Do you talk like a crazy person? You know, all of those things you see in video and in live video as well, which has become very important for lots of reasons. Some of those reasons include being able to see how you handle stress. Being live on video is always stressful. You never know if the technology is going to work. You don't know. I have one ear open, waiting for my dog to come running in, my wife to come home from work, or you know, the doorbell to ring. You know, as much as you prep, I've turned my cell phone off and all those. You just never know. So, you know, live video is a great way to start building relationships with people and starting to develop that trust and credibility that's so important.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to interject with a couple of comments to share and get your thoughts on them. First of all, Naomi uses in her blogs, aside from the written part of the blog, she includes the video in the blog post as well. So it's almost like you're satisfying the reader's consumption and the video consumers. And I'm going to add one other dimension to it. It's funny. I found that I don't have the patience to read. I would rather turn a video on, believe it or not, like I do podcasts, and I play at a speed multiple of like 1.25, 1.5, because it's just, you know, attention spans seem so short, and I almost like test the limit on how fast I can consume someone's material. You know, like I listen to all podcasts at 1.5 times speed minimum, and it works. It works for me, and just rarely on occasion when someone's such a fast talker that I have to slow it down. But, you know, it's funny, like, and I believe that voice, intonation, tone, and all of these things, body language, are so important to, like you say, create that impression and building that know, like, and trust factor. But when I consume it in that way, I almost like throw out the window that focus. And these are people I've already bought into. I just want to take it all in, kind of thing. Sure. So it's not like I'm screening them out by doing that. I'm doing it because I love their content, and I'm willing to consume it at a little faster rate because I know how to consume it. And Crypto Cruising's shared another interesting point, and I like this one. Adverts spoil the internet. They're everywhere, and you know, he finds it as annoying as a spam email. I mean, I find some of the, you know, the ads just so artificial, so what's the word I'm looking for? You know, creating dreams that can be solved showing you dreams that are solvable, instant, like giving you an instant gratification sense of solving that it's so cold, it's a turnoff. And I guess, do you have a perspective on using video in your marketing for ads, or is that not considered this under the domain of marketing when you're doing ads like
Oh
that?
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think having some video ads, um, very important. Again, for the same reason that we're talking about how important video is. They see you. Maybe it's a product demo. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you do a 30-second video that you're going to include in an ad that shows how your product works. You see those ones particularly in cooking, for example, where they take that sharp knife and they're going slicing up that tomato very easily, and then they try to sell you the knife.
Yeah.
Um, very important piece of
Yeah.
your marketing
That
strategy.
that's a great point, because I actually like a lot of the ads where they're demonstrating tech gear, and they have
Yeah.
some new innovative twist and they're showing it off, and I go wow, and then I just want to watch more and more, and I get hooked into it, and oftentimes I'll click through to go see what's going on. So that's a great point. So like product demos or talking about your service at a level to show the uniqueness will bring some real added value to that consumption experience, right?
Right. And for example, if you're not a product business and you're a service provider, a lot of times I'll see video ads, where there'll be like a quick case study where
Mm-hmm.
they'll say, we did some work for this business and here was the outcome. You can get ROI from this, and call us today for a free consultation, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So there's lots of ways to use video to start down that path of developing a relationship with your buyers and building trust and credibility.
Very cool. What about, Brad? I think you talked about this earlier on in the conversation. You talked about personas. There's different dynamics that you're trying to serve. Can you explain a little bit on that, about in the strategy of your marketing, and if how it
Yeah.
might apply to video in the process as well?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. So one of the first things that we want to do is create buyer personas. Now, most businesses have more than one,
Mm-hmm.
but we go into great details: male, female, what's the age range, what kind of titles in their jobs might they have, what's a day in the life of your buyer persona look like. Almost most importantly, I want to say most importantly, it's probably not most importantly, but importantly, you also want to know where they are online. Where are they going to consume the information that's important to them online? Sometimes that's based upon the age demographic. Sometimes it's based on the industry that they're in. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to know all of those things so you know what kind of content to create. And as importantly, where that content needs to go. So
Mm.
I generally suggest that you have a YouTube channel, if for no other reason than for it to be a repository of all your video content. And
Mm-hmm.
you can go and get a link and send somebody there. But you might also um, need to be on Vimeo, or people don't often know the fact that there are thousands of social networks out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Um, there are thousands. There's niche social networks for musicians and artists, and it's so that's why it's so important to know who your buyers are,
Mm-hmm.
so you know what kind of content to create, and then you know where to distribute it. And a lot of this is just testing. It's
Mm-hmm.
throwing it out there to just see what is working, and what doesn't work. figure out what works, and then lean into that heavily.
Okay.
Uh, is kind of the
This,
way we do.
this is a great point, because as you know, I you I'm predominantly on YouTube, where I publish everything that I do. And from our discussions and learning from you, I'm realizing that I'm not really exploiting the use of a funnel. I'm just basically trying to build and warm my relationship and nurture it with the people I serve by just saying, here's my next video, and here's my next one, and here's another one. And if you liked this, you'll like that. And then occasionally I'll share an affiliate offer or a product I recommend, and things of that nature. And to me, although I want to serve people in helping them to produce their content or courses, or coach them or help them set up their YouTube channel, etc., I'm learning I'm not really building the relationship in a funnel sense to show them what I can do for them. And we talked about that I can actually produce videos in a series, as an example, a funnel series, that would help them show how I can solve different problems for them, and learning on their feedback on how they respond or not to that series will indicate whether they're a good target to make a sort of a warm offer, or they're hot, rather than me just when I have an offer just sending it to my whole list again, right? So can you help us understand like how we can use video beyond just more of sort of, I'll call it more like the flat funnel approach I'm using? Although I do have call to actions in all my videos, I'm not really taking it to that next level of understanding their needs at another level, trying to pick it out of them, through right. doing a funnel. Can you share?
Right.
Yeah. Some perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think what I want people to think about is that we're really talking about building a relationship with somebody in order to do business with them. So oftentimes I use dating or marriage as an example. And if you and I went out on a date, and then I started sending you email, and you got a new email every week with a new thought that I had, or something, and there wasn't any opportunity for me to engage with you. So, even if your email said, hit reply and let me know a video you'd like me to make that would address a pain point you have in your business, that's getting closer to building this relationship and building trust and credibility and giving valuable information. I might get an email from you that doesn't relate to anything I'm doing, that I'm not really interested in. So some of this goes into segmenting your lists so that you know what people are interested in. So I talk about a client that was a pet store, and when people came in and signed up for the email list, they asked for a name, they asked for an email address, and then they asked, do you own a dog or a cat? And they never sent the cat owners emails about the special they were having on this dog food this week. So cat owners got relevant emails from them. The same can be true with your video marketing. If you know what people are interested in, what kind of information they're looking for, what business they're in, what pain points they have, what challenges they have in their business, then you know what kind of videos you want to send to that sort of segment of your list.
Right. So this gets to exploring and using some of the more advanced autoresponder technologies that are out there, like ConvertKit, GetResponse. I use ActiveCampaign, where you have the ability to create a logical flow. And if you ask those questions and there's some kind of response required, you can tag and actually know to take them to the next step in your sequence, right? And I know I want to do more of that. I'm only utilizing that stuff to make sure people get my freebie content I promise them and stuff like that, or suggest some more free content. So these are all great points. I want to share a comment, if I can, right now, that was from Naomi that I saw just a bit bit back that I wanted to mention. She said something quite interesting here. Pardon me for the delay. Things sped up a bit. I think she said here. Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, Brad. If you are on does being on too many platforms water down your outreach? This is something we were going to talk about a little later. About is there, when it gets to distribution, I mean, we can talk about this, even though it's kind of out of intention order in the way we were going to cover things, but out distributing your videos or your sequences and can, some people say I want to be everywhere, and I don't know how people can serve everywhere if they're one-man bands. But what are your thoughts on that, and is it dilutive?
Sure. So it's challenging to be everywhere. It's impossible to be everything to everyone. But again, this goes back to the buyer persona. Mm-hmm. You want to be where your buyers are. And if you have 4 or 5 different personas, then you might need to be on 4 or 5 different social networks.
Oh, I see.
The key, though, is to adapt your content for each network. So I probably wouldn't use the same text in a post that has a video on Facebook as the same text. I wouldn't use the same text in LinkedIn.
Right.
It's a different platform. It's got a different vibe to it, a different feeling to it, a different membership. A different group of people are part of LinkedIn. So I might use the same video that I used on Facebook, but the words that I use to introduce the video might be different. Clearly, if I'm posting a video on Twitter, even though they've increased the number of characters now, I'm still trying to stick to the 140-ish. It might be 140 and then some hashtags. But the text that introduces that video on Twitter is going to be very different. Just like on Instagram, where Instagram encourages you to use up to 30 hashtags in every post, the content that you're sharing before they get to the video is different. So I don't think that that it dilutes the message, because I think if you're doing it well, your message is really different. Even though the video is the same, your hook to get people to watch the video is going to be different on every channel.
Yeah, and in terms of even the video itself, like I know I take a YouTube video and then I craft something for consumption on Instagram video, and it's less than a minute, but it's sort of a condensed part of the front of my YouTube video that has the hook to encourage people to watch. But then I dress it up with all kinds of text, because we know on these on a media like Instagram, you may or may not have your sound on, so you want them to be able to know what they're doing. So I add some text in for consumption there. Likewise, if you were to do a native upload to Facebook, you'd want to be doing the same thing, right? So it's those kinds of things, and like you said, when you're in like a social feed and you're flying through too, brevity is powerful, and I think people have tolerance for different levels of that depending on the platform they're consuming.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. And some platforms limit the length of your video anyway. I mean, you can go live on Instagram for longer than you can post a video that can only be a minute. And now they've changed stories, so they're sort of stringing together 15-second videos on Instagram stories. But the platforms have some limitations as to the length that your video can be also. So you need to use those opportunities to maybe drive somebody to your YouTube channel to watch the full hour or hour and a half video, to go to your Vimeo channel, to go, wherever you house your video, Maybe you put them on your website and drive people to your website with the thinking that, I hope after they watch the video, they're going to click around and click on my services, click on my about page, and then finally click on the contact us page and contact us.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways to take the content that you can put on these social networks and get more bang for your buck.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to say we had a bunch of additional people recently join us. Welcome, Dan Norton. Crypto's Cruising's been there for a while. Doug Hewson. I can't imagine what hour it is where you are right now. And Roz Bounty just joined. She's from South Australia, and she came across our live by accident. Well, welcome, Roz.
Wow.
You're welcome.
What a lucky accident you
That's
had.
right. Now you're going to get to enjoy all about video marketing strategies. That's the focus of our discussion today, and my guest is Brad Friedman. And so you were touching on this, but because we have so many different platforms, take for example our video today, our live video. So I promoted it mostly on some Facebook groups, but I'm not a heavy user of Instagram, other than after the fact I post with the link and do a nice little short video on regular Instagram posting. But I should really take advantage of the live, right? And I find a lot of people, I know I go there and I look at the little circles at the top, and the first thing I do when I go on Instagram is I'm curious to see what Dan Norton's saying right now, because this is fresh content. So
Right.
like, I guess in part of that strategy for how you apply your video would be to see how to integrate all of these things in terms of a flow for distribution, right?
Oh, absolutely. So a show of yours that I watched, I think it was last week or the week before, when you had our friend Todd Bergen, Todd.live on.
Yeah, our Vid Summit
Todd
recap. Yeah,
is, famous for the TriCaster that he has, where he's on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, all at the same time. Our friend Professor Nez is often on multiple channels at the same time. So, as long as what you're planning to do is going to fit within the constraints of the network that you're going to be doing the video on. So if you only have an hour on Instagram, for example, then you want to make sure that the video that you're doing on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube is only an hour, so that you don't get cut off and leave people hanging.
Yeah, I see that. And Tech for Your Needs mentions how you convert your audience to the platform you use the most based on limited time. So yeah, I guess he's talking about, again, being a one-man crew, right? And that's the challenge I feel I face. I was joking about this to you, I think, before, and I said, aside from finishing my video, editing it, then between SEO, thumbnails, social distribution, and email campaign, I'm spending another 3 hours, for me anyways, the way I like to do it, because I like to make that thumbnail to perfection. And then and I go like, and that's just like, a couple of things. What happens if I wanted to get busier on some of these other platforms, and I go, I just feel I can't service it all. And I was going to ask you, like, how often do people get into outsourcing this activity to companies like yourself, and of some of these things that we described, like, what scope of services would a company like yours handle in terms of the outsourcing of all of these activities?
Sure. So a couple things first, and then I do want to answer that question. But one, I just mentioned our friend Todd.live. Mm-hmm. You should go to Instagram today and look at the video that he posted, because it's very relevant to what you just said.
Okay.
Perfection. And I won't give you the title of the video, because I'm assuming this is a G-rated show that you have.
Okay.
But it addresses what you just said about perfection. Secondly, many times when I work with somebody with a business, I'm going to have them spend the first month, maybe 2 months, on one platform and getting good at it. We're going to say, this is going to be your primary platform based upon the research we've done and the creation of the buyer personas. So we're going to spend 1 month doing everything we can do to optimize everything you're doing on LinkedIn, for example. And we're going to do videos, and we're going to do posts, and we're going to set up a company page, and we're going to get really good at LinkedIn before we address one of your other buyer personas who might be on Facebook. That's one way of kind of spreading out the time commitment. The other message here with business owners in particular is nobody knows your business like you do. Mm-hmm. And you have certain core competencies that make you the business owner that you are and make your business the business that it is. And I don't care whether it's your marketing or it's your accounting or it's your building maintenance, whatever it is, if you don't like doing those things, or you're not good at doing those things, or you don't have time to do those things efficiently, then I am a big proponent of outsourcing. I personally have virtual assistants that I work with. I certainly work with businesses who want to do nothing but focus on their business and want me to do nothing but focus on their online presence, whether it's tweaking their website or posting for them on their social media channels, creating blog posts, writing ebooks, whatever the content is, creating landing pages, doing Facebook ads, Google ads. We do all of those different things for businesses, professionals. And that's just because we want to help our clients be successful. And being online and having a great online presence is only one piece of it. Because remember, you've got to have great customer service. You've got to have a great product or service that you offer. So you need to focus on what it is that you do. And that's really all part of this sort of inbound marketing culture where we're trying to attract, convert, close, and then delight our customers so that they become promoters of our business and they become our brand ambassadors and they become our sort of our marketing team.
Yeah, they refer
all
you.
Really part of that.
Yeah, they'll and what I find most interesting about what you just said is that I know, like, I struggle because I'm a perfectionist, and in the chat, this has been talked about. And so if I'm going to go and try and do my active campaign stuff or my email responder stuff, I want it to be perfect. If I'm going to go do the Facebook posting, I want it to be perfect and put all the energy in to do it right. And, but then I'm starting to realize that as I grow and the amount of energy that can be put out to do that distribution, as I increase the number of platforms, go into Instagram Live, do the Twitter part, and in terms of the scope of what I might be interested in, and the more breadth I give to it, the more time I'm taking away from the other things that are involved in running my business. And so then when I hear you talk about, well, I like to say work with a client and we first get them to focus on one platform and sort of, I'm not going to say it's with the intention per se of perfecting it as much as it is to see also, is that platform where you're going to get traction and it is right as you suspected and it's where your audience is and you're going to serve them there, and then branch into do another one. Is that a fair perspective as to
yeah, absolutely. It's
that
sort
approach?
Of testing the water. So, and there's lots of ways of doing that. For example, the Food Channel I heard recently, they do a ton of video. They have video that has had more than 300. They have a single video that has had more than 300 million views. But they talk about this idea that they have of they'll shoot 30 videos of the same thing. 30 different videos of the same topic at once. And then they'll just throw it up there on all the different social networks
Wow.
and see what works. They're testing. So I think there's a lot to be said about your desire to be perfect. In many ways, I have that same desire, and many times you have to do what a public speaker that I have great admiration for, Brian Fanzo, says all the time, which is press the damn button. Okay, there's something to be said about getting your message out, getting your content out regularly and consistently. If the only reason you're not publishing this week
Right.
is because you can't get the picture aligned right in Photoshop, you're making a big mistake.
Yep.
If you're not going live because you think, there's some noise in the background, or there's a chance that my wife is going to come home any minute now, you're missing an opportunity. Because remember, people like to see that stuff. People loved it when that BBC reporter was giving a very serious live report, and this toddler came running in, and then somebody came running in to pick up the toddler and get him or her out of the room. And we're people, we're real people. We have stuff happens.
Yeah.
And people love to see that. It makes you human. It makes you more credible. It makes you trustworthy. So being a perfectionist, I have the same failing, and I'll call it a failing, that you do and that I try a lot. I mean, whether it's proofreading something 5 times, 2 sentences that are going up on Twitter, or whatever, I find myself doing that. But sometimes your time could be better spent.
Mm-hmm. Can we shift now to the concept, and I think we've talked about it, but I'm just using the more formalized term of generating traffic. So even if you publish videos on different platforms, you need to somehow cross-pollinate traffic, unless it's like in the case of YouTube videos, I want to drive from wherever to here to YouTube, but then from YouTube I may take them off-site to an affiliate offer or to my website where there's opt-in or other things to educate them and learn about services and other content. So how important in the world of the video marketing strategy is the driving the traffic, and can you give us a few dimensions on it?
Sure. So it makes no sense at all to create a video and take all the time that it takes to do the editing and put it up on YouTube and do the SEO and do the keyword research for your title and all of those things. It makes no sense to do all of that if nobody sees the video. Very simple. So this is one way where all the different types of content that we've talked about comes into play. Send people to your video with a blog post. Send people with an ebook. Send people with a checklist or a white paper. This is where social media comes into play. Use your Instagram account to send people to your YouTube channel, your Facebook account, your Twitter account, your LinkedIn account. This is where you do all the cross-posting, cross-marketing, because you want to generate traffic. This could also be where advertising comes into play, whether it's Facebook advertising or Google ads or LinkedIn ads or Twitter ads or Instagram ads or any of the platforms that you can now advertise on, because the whole point is to get your message out to your target audience. All of the advertising that we can do now, some of us find that a little scary, but nevertheless, it can be highly targeted to your buyer personas. So you can be targeting the people that are really meant to see your video through advertising, through the kinds of search engine optimization techniques that you employ. And then all these other things, the blog posts and the like, are just additional ways, because you want to be where everybody is. Some people might prefer to read a blog post, and then they read your blog post, and then they go to your video. So it's very important that you're taking advantage of all the places that you are online. And don't forget about your website.
Mm-hmm.
You could put something on your homepage that sends people to your most recent video, for example, so
Yeah,
that
well,
somebody lands on your website and they scroll down and they see your video and boom, they're all of a sudden they're on your YouTube channel.
yeah. Well, one
You
of the
know,
things we had discussion on was the fact that I'm wasting opportunity by not writing regular blogs and referring people to video content, and likewise, if my blogs posts solve problems for people, maybe there's call to actions at the end and they watched a video, and that's going to help, nurture the relationship. But I wanted to ask one other thing about the traffic, and that is the concept of organic versus paid, which you kind of walked us through there, partially, or actually well done, but I'm trying to get a little variable thrown in here. I run a YouTube channel, and I've never done paid ads. Likewise, everything and all my list growth, everything's been done only through organic means. Should one be using paid ads, to video ads as an example, to help something like grow their channel or build their brand awareness and their know, like, and trust just for that purpose? Or should it only be utilized to help get people to understand that you have services or products to sell, or some kind of offer, tie them into a nurture sequence to get them to go deeper in that relationship? Like, what is your attitude about when should people be thinking about spending money?
so I think before you launch any kind of campaign, before you create a playlist on your YouTube channel, before you create a YouTube channel, you need to define success. So when I make this post, if 5 people like it, is that success? When I post this video, if I get 15 views, is that success? If I post the video and 1,000 views is what I define as success, and I get 15, maybe I need to be doing some advertising. Maybe I need to be writing that blog post and sending people there. Maybe I need to be posting more than once on my social media in order to get people there. So it's really all about how you define success on the various channels or networks that you're on as to whether you need to pay to play. I generally tell people, don't pay until you find that you can't do something without paying.
Right.
So people ask me all the time, do I need to pay for my subscription to LinkedIn? Is there something that you are going to do regularly and consistently that you can't do with the free version of LinkedIn? Will be my question. Do you want the advanced search? Do you want to use all the capabilities of LinkedIn? Are you using it to post jobs? Then maybe you have to pay. If you're getting the number of views that you find to be acceptable, and if from that number of views you're getting the amount of business that you hoped to get from your YouTube channel, then you're golden. Don't spend the money if you don't have to.
Okay. That makes sense. And I guess you do a lot of A/B testing in some of these things as well, right? In order to see what approaches are more effective than others, right? Just like people do with thumbnail testing with different technologies to see. Because the interesting thing is, it's not the success, although you may perceive it when you design and create something in whatever your campaign is and your videos, it's really what feedback comes in, the results that will tell you whether it was effective, not just your perception because you conceived it, right?
Right. And I think, to take that just a step further and kind of turn back to this inbound marketing concept. Remember, we're really trying to develop relationships with people with our content. So we're looking for engagement, but we're also looking for being able to have a back and forth. So a lot of times people forget that social media has that word social in it.
Mm.
And if you're using your social media channels like a billboard and you're not entering into relationships with people, you're not having a back and forth, a conversation, a discussion, answering a question, providing something of value, then you're really not taking advantage of that platform to its fullest. If you're using it as a billboard, just as a place to blast out information about you, one, you're missing a huge opportunity, and two, at some point, people are going to see your content in their feed and they're going to just scroll over it because they know everything that you're posting isn't engagement ready,
Hmm.
isn't trying to elicit some kind of response from them.
Okay, that's great. Now, Brad, I'm curious to know. I mean, as I mentioned to you, my approach to a funnel in terms of videos or sequence has usually just been sending the next one the next week to my list. Now, what would be some examples? Can we look at like one practical example? I know you shared with me, like trying to solve a problem and then trying to see through that process if you can actually provide services for someone. So can you give me an example of thinking like a simple video sequence? And let's say I want to help people, coach them, for example, like yourself, to get more skill in Camtasia so that you can do the things that you need to do. Can you just give me a
Right.
little sample of how I could create something from a video marketing strategy that would say, oh, I need to get in touch with Gord so that he can help me with producing some lower thirds or edit a few things and create some templates and stuff for me.
Right. So let's think of the buyer's journey
Hmm.
as we're creating your funnel.
Okay.
So the first step is the awareness
Hmm.
step in your funnel. So in that step, your videos or your content, your other content, whether it's a white paper or an ebook or a blog post or whatever, is going to be focused very
Hmm.
generally on, hi, I'm Gord, and I am certified in using Camtasia. I teach small business owners how to create and edit outstanding video that is going to help them grow their business.
Right.
Okay, very general kind of multiple videos of, hi, I'm Gord, I exist. You want to get to know me better. So people start watching those videos, or they go to a landing page and give you a name and an email address, and then you can start developing content as they move into the next stage in the buyer's journey, which is evaluating the product or service. So with you, the next stage, the evaluation stage, those videos are going to be a little more detailed
Hmm.
about the kinds of services that you provide, what you actually do. I can train you to do this. I can do this for you. I can do all these different things for you. And here are some examples. Here's some case studies. Here's some clients that I've worked with. And, I created a course, a 30 video course for this client. I created a sort of a talking head video for this client. I taught this client how to edit a video and put in animations and really cool transitions. So during that evaluation process, your buyer persona is seeing all the things that you can do for them. And
Okay.
then when they move into the purchase part of the funnel, it's really more of call me for a free consultation. Call me for an online demo. Let me show you the back end of Camtasia and how we can create templates for you to use easily down the road. really getting them into the point where you can now try to convert them and close with them, because you've developed this relationship during the first two stages of the funnel, and now they've made their decision. You've been the most helpful. You've been the most authentic, and they're ready to take the plunge. So now you've got to give them that push, or you've pulled them in to where you can close them, convert them, and then provide whatever it is that they need.
Okay. So would the approach to start that whole chain off after they've, say, opted into, they got a free template from me, a project file template, would the next example, or the first in the video sequence to start after that opt-in, be to pose a question or a problem that will help them, and then I sort of like explain how I solve that problem in the content, and then they're able to evaluate me to see, that resonates with me or it doesn't, or I see Gord can do that, cool. And then at the end I have some form of call to action, and then the next time around I can continue on more subjects to show them that. Is that correct in terms of
that's absolutely correct. But don't lose sight of the fact that we're trying to build a relationship.
Right.
So the first email out of the box might be, many small business owners are strapped for time. And because of that, there are tools that you can use to make your video production quicker and more efficient. Here's a quick video on using Camtasia to quickly and efficiently create videos. And I would encourage you to hit reply and write me back with some challenges that you're facing in your business, so that I can create content that resonates with you. Because then we're getting that back and forth, and we're having that conversation, and we're developing a relationship. It's not just I'm guessing.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, everybody's time strapped. I mean, that's probably a safe, kind of first awareness video. But you really want to see. I'm doing a workshop tomorrow on email marketing, and there's 2 slides on trying to find out what the people in the room, what their pain points are. They're all going to be business owners. So what's your challenge? What challenges are you finding? And then I'm going to show them how email, how constant contact can help them with that pain point. So it's the same thing that you would want to do in the scenario that you laid out.
Yeah, so I was just kind of, I'll say, a little more aggressive in my ways, or by surveying, it will help you narrow things down and get some direction on maybe even what those next videos should be in the sequence, because you actually reached out at a level that helped you understand that communication and that dialogue that's going on, right?
Right. And the other thing not to forget is looking at the data from the email that you send. So you send that first email. How many people opened it when they saw what your subject line was? How many people actually clicked and watched the video? Because you can make some assumptions from that. If they opened the email, that's great. If they didn't click on the video, it didn't resonate with them.
Right.
If they did click on the video, then you can draw some assumptions from that maybe that was a pain point that resonated with them. So then next week you try a different pain point and you look at the data, and if you're getting about the same number of opens and the same number of clicks on the video, then maybe you're on to something.
Okay. So yeah, and it's funny, like we're describing a whole approach to dialoguing that I never even thought about, that the marketing communication actually helps you get a much greater understanding of who your audience is, even beyond what you just perceptively may think it is, by how people are socially responding by consuming your content out on the network, right? So once they opt in, you really have a chance to get that relationship to a whole other level, right?
Absolutely. And that's why, regardless of the channel that you're on, you need to pay attention to the analytics. So again, if you're, one, you're going to define what success is. And then two, you're going to look at the data to see if you succeeded. So if you're putting out video content that's not getting the number of views that you have determined equals success, you got to do something. So, and then I suggest doing one thing at a time. So maybe you see that you've done 3 videos and they're not getting the views that you want. So what do? Maybe first, for the next 3 videos, you really focus on the headline. That's the first thing people see. That's the thing that comes up in search results. So it's a great place to start. Now, based on the headline and the research that you've done and the way you've tweaked your headline, are you getting more views? If no, then I would go to the graphic, to the thumbnail, and I would say I would tweak that. Does it need to be bigger? Does my picture need to be smaller? Do I need to have a different color? And I would try modifying the thumbnail and seeing if that drives more organic traffic to get views. So it's really the same thing would be on other social networks. When I post on Instagram, success to me is getting somebody to go look at my profile. So I have a business Instagram account. I click on the insights. I see, my very limited reach, the number of people who like it. And then, did anybody go look at my profile? On Facebook, you want to look at likes, shares, and comments, because that's how you get organic reach. Likes, shares, and comments. So every platform has analytics, has data that we can look at in order to tweak our digital marketing strategy, to tweak our content, so that we're getting to the point where we're having success, however we defined it.
That's excellent. Now, we've covered so many things today, and one of the ways that I thought would be cool to summarize things is to think about it in terms of, in serving your clients, what do you find are 3 typical ways an entrepreneur falls short in their video marketing strategy or their overall digital strategy. And I think maybe you can refer to it in the context that the video marketing strategy is just part of the overall. And you've actually touched on that a ton anyways, right? Because of all the different content elements and distribution options and ways there are to engage with your prospects. So
right.
Can you share what are the common?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing that I see is that people don't have a strategy at all. People say to me, well, I know I need to be on Facebook, but I don't really know what to do. I know I need to be creating videos and have a YouTube channel. So I'm creating these videos and I'm putting them up there, but I don't really have a strategy. I'm not cross-posting. I don't know who my buyer persona is. I haven't defined success. So I think the number one thing that I see really is that they have no strategy at all.
So why do you think that is before you go to number 2? Like, is it because we're lazy or we stick with things like we're comfortable with? Like in my case, I just love creating content for the most part. Being the entrepreneur, the well-rounded person is in certain areas like marketing much harder work for me because it's more of an unknown.
Right. So I think in a lot of cases it's because they don't know they need a strategy. It's because they know they need to be online and have a presence because they've heard it a million times, but they don't know how. It's not within their core competency to even create a strategy. They just want to have a presence. In some cases, it's a budget issue. In some cases, it's a staff issue, and you've delegated your YouTube channel to your administrative assistant or your office manager or somebody, and you just assume that they know what they're doing and they have a strategy, and you're not even asking the question, did that video generate revenue for me? What is the return on my investment? I'm paying my assistant to do this. Are they bringing in business? So I think there's lots of reasons. Some of it is relative to the size of the business. So solopreneurs, there's only so much time in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can attest to the fact that my own marketing always comes last. Yeah. I am behind in a lot of my marketing, just because as a one-man band, I'm much more client focused. And if I don't have the time to do my own, I don't. So that's where we had the discussion about outsourcing. And exactly. That also ties into having any kind of marketing strategy. A lot of the people, it's not just an online marketing strategy, it's any marketing strategy that I see that people don't have.
Yeah, and it is like the whole one-man band thing throws a dynamic in, and a lot of people just, talk about, oh, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm a perfectionist, and, we have all the excuses that create our blocks, but the reality is we are holding ourselves back from being able to grow our business, because if we can't do it, we really need to get some additional help in order to execute there, because those elements are so important for business, and we have an affinity to stick with what we know. And sometimes because of the busyness that we get in doing those activities, it's easy to, forget about it, and then we wake up wondering, why are we not bringing more leads in the door, and it's because you're actually neglecting it because it's not your favorite thing to do. And you devote resources to it, right?
A lot of times I tell people who tell me they're too busy, I tell people, now's the time to be doing your marketing, because you're too busy, because there's going to come a time when you're not going to be too busy. Everything goes in cycles. And when you're not busy, it's too late to be gearing up a marketing strategy, because it takes months to get that marketing strategy developed and fine-tuned and actually working for you. So, there was a time when I used to avoid trying to work with accountants from January until the middle of April.
Right.
But when I found one year, to my delight, a marketing manager at a big accounting firm in Denver called me, and I said, oh my gosh, it's February. Why are you calling me? We're in tax season. And she said, all of my accountants are busy. This is the time when I gear up the marketing, so that in May, June, and July, we're marketing and we're bringing in people for the October deadline. Mm-hmm. And we're bringing in people for next year's tax season. So people who are busy, everybody's busy. Nobody's more or less busy than you are. You might think you're the busiest person on the planet. Now's the time to be working on your marketing strategy.
That's a great point. And I like Simply Beth's comment. She says the personality that becomes a leader is not used to asking for help, because we typically think we can work our way through any problem, solve anything, and do it all ourselves if we need to, rather than appreciating that we should be delegating out or finding the most efficient way for the business to function effectively in order to...
And the next step in that thinking is, nobody can do it as well as I can do it anyway.
Oh yeah.
I'm the boss here. This is my business. I created it. It's my idea, and nobody can do it as well as I can. So I'm not asking for help. I'm not delegating.
Yeah, and that's just actually a weakness by thinking that it can't be delegated, because then you become the bottleneck, and it causes all kinds of other ramifications. And I like what Ivan suggested here as well. He says we need to settle for 80% good enough instead of being a constant perfectionist. And then that way, as an individual, that would allow us to do a little more in terms of throughput. but still we need to be sure we're able to service the other functions that need to succeed for the business to succeed overall. And
Right.
okay, so what was number 2 in terms of a typical shortfall? We've covered
Yeah.
the first
So
one. Yeah. So what's the second
number
one?
two, really across the board, is not knowing who your target audience is. Um, 8, maybe 9 times out of 10, when I talk to a small business owner, they proclaim to be the only person who does what it is that they do, or the only person. They have no competition because of the way they do what they do, and that's the best way to do it. So their product or service really applies to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely, well, I've never had an experience where that's been the case. Everybody has competition. Everybody's product or service applies to a specific buyer persona, a specific demographic. Toddlers aren't buying insurance. Their
Yeah.
parents might be,
Yeah.
but you know, teenagers. I mean, whatever it is that you do or sell, it doesn't apply to everybody. So knowing who your target audience is critical, so that you know the type of content and you know the type of marketing and you know where you need to be online to get your message to the right people. Because we're not doing this just because it's fun, and in many ways it is fun, but we're doing this to generate revenue. I mean, we're a business. You want to be online not just to have fun, but to generate revenue for your business. So knowing who your target audience is often something that business owners really overlook.
Okay, can I ask you a question about that right now? And it's just like a theory I have, because I started what I'm doing 2-3 years ago, and it's all in the digital space. Everyone I meet, all my clients are through the digital space and engaging through there. I find that the mechanisms that are typically there to get more of a clear understanding or tuning of what my audience is a very hard thing to grasp. It's not like a brick and mortars world where the people are walking in my door and I can have a casual conversation with them face to face all the time. So yes, I could go on in theory like we're having a conversation here and start to talk to people and learn more about them. But I find it's just tougher because my focus having been my YouTube channel to grow my relationship and what I do there, I'm learning from my comments and my feedback and observing shares and things like that and getting, sporadic email feedback. So I just find from a digital age perspective, I find it's a harder thing to tune what that audience is. And I say this because when I started, I believed based on demographic, I was only going to be serving, say, my age demographic or a little younger or whatever. But then I found out, depending on the target and focus of what the topic was of some of the videos I was creating, my demographic spread all the way down to like 20, 24, 25, right up to my age. And it depended on which kind of videos I was doing in the last 30 days. And I also learned more that I'm really targeting beginner to intermediate skilled people. And it's not so much about an age demographic or personal profile that way. It was more at a skill level. And so I'm just trying to comment that, is that a reasonable statement about trying to get a grasp on how to tune what your audience is in the digital marketplace?
Yeah, but I think you actually answered your own statement right there at the end
Okay.
when you said you started looking at the data.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did fine tune. You knew that you were working with beginners and intermediates. You know that the age range is 25 to your age.
Yeah.
You learned, so you really have, in many ways, at least started to define your buyer persona. So the next step is to actually look at your client base. And so of my clients, so my videos are appealing to people 25 up. But the people who are actually going to my website, filling out my form for my free 30-minute consultation are 40 to 50.
Right.
And they work in companies that are this size. And so it's again, it goes back to that data. So you might know some from the insights that you're getting, but now, let's look at sales data. Let's put that into the mix to help refine my target audience. Because if your content is reaching people from 25 up, but your clients are all in their 40s, then that tells you what kind of content you need.
That tells you who's going to press the buy, who's pressing the buy button.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And so you want to tailor your content to that demographic.
Okay. And there was a third point that you were going to go over about.
Yeah, I think the third point really is that once you have created a strategy and you know who your buyer persona is, the next step is really developing content for each stage of the buyer's journey, so that you know the different types of content that you're going to push out at various stages in the journey, because it's all about content. It's all about sharing value with your prospects so that you can move them down the buyer's journey and turn them into lifelong customers.
Well, that sounds great. So there were so many tips here today. My head's kind of like swelling in the sense that I know I need to execute a lot more and hope to learn more of those things that are more specific to my business and our relationship as we go forward. And I really appreciate all that you shared with us today. Is there a final message that you would say to people to help them as a first step to get started, or any other special message in terms of getting video marketing to help them empower helping their business grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think that as a first step, I would suggest that people do what I do when I come into an engagement, and is really do an audit. Mm-hmm. So go to your YouTube channel, look at the content that you've put on YouTube, and look at the data. So what are the views? What are the comments? Are people sharing your content? And look at each video there. Maybe you have playlists. So is one playlist performing better than another under certain criteria? Are you getting more shares in playlist A than you are in playlist B? Knowing that kind of beginning sort of data, doing that audit, can go a long way to helping you then take the next step, which I think I've emphasized ad nauseum, which is you need to have a strategy. But maybe now you have some data to help form that strategy. And it also is going to help you as you continue to create content in the future. So I would start with an online assessment of kind of where you are, what you're doing now.
Okay, that sounds great. Lots of great tips there. So Brad, can you share with everybody tell them about your podcast, the Digital Slice, and what kind of scope of content and information do you bring out to the people? And I just want to say, I love the podcast. I find your interviews are so in depth, and I learn something from each person, whether it's a VA or a live streaming expert or someone HubSpot educating us on our social media management. I just find the diversity very interesting and useful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. So my podcast, the Digital Slice podcast, is basically tips, tricks, news that you need in order to succeed online. Most of the podcasts start with a Facebook Live that I try to do on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I do not think that's happening tomorrow because of the workshop that I'm doing. But I take those Facebook Lives, and I have a wide variety of guests that are in the digital world. So authors that have written books, online live video gurus like Stephanie Liu was on recently, Todd Bergen was on. I've had Brian Kramer on. I've had
Ross
John
Brand. I
Ferrara.
loved that one you did with Ross Brand.
Oh yeah, Ross
Yeah, that was
Brand.
awesome.
I've
Yeah.
had John Ferrara, who's the king of CRMs and the person who founded and operates Nimble CRM.
Right.
So all different kinds of topics that help business owners uh, function online and grow their business.
Well, that's fantastic, and I think, and just to answer simply Beth's question, she says, "Is Brad in the U.S.?" So tell us where you're from, Brad.
I am in the US. I am in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah.
Um, been here my whole life. But just so that you know, I had a client in the United Kingdom. I have clients in Canada.
Yeah.
So the beauty of working in the internet, in the world of the internet, is as long as I can figure out the time zones, which I am often challenged with, I can really have clients anywhere.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I just love the international flavor of of working in the digital domain, and I really enjoy that aspect too. So thanks again, Brad, and I greatly appreciate all the wisdom you shared here today. And I know I'm going to be replaying it for myself to absorb all the content. There was so much shared, and thank you everybody in the chat. I'm so appreciate you all and your participation, and we look forward to seeing you next time, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Gord. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad.